The Vikings are who we think they are, which is, I don't know who the hell they are. I mean, they did play well enough to win a game last night. And I think that they are a talented bunch with a quarterback who can light it up, although he didn't last night, and a wide receiver who is top 5 in the league in Justin Jefferson, and no Adam Thielen last night. And Dalvin Cook is a top 5 running back who just kept running into a buzzsaw. He ran 28 times. If it was the Steelers, he would have had 400 yards with 28 runs. But he was against the Bears defense that just is not quitting. And he only got 89 yards out of it. And, you know, it's fortunate for them. They're facing a Bears team that is just absolutely 100% going to have a next coach next year, a new coach. I like Matt Nagy. He's been on the show. He gave me a visor. You know, he took my advice about not wearing a visor because we're part of the Bald Brotherhood together. I'm concerned about his dome. He came into the league and, turned Trubisky straw into gold. They made a playoffs. They got double doinked at home. They could have easily been a division round team that year where Nagy was coach of the year. Don't forget, Matt Nagy has coach of the year on his resume. A lot of people seem to forget that right now. But it's just not working. It's not working at all. You could say that choosing a young quarterback and throwing him into this mix while potentially setting up the Bears for the future was just a very wrong move to win this year with the line as it was constituted to protect this kid up front. And the rest of the weaponry around him maybe not ready, but that's the whole, once Matt Nagy is no longer there, and I fear that that's the language to be used. You know, we'll talk about Ryan Pace, the general manager, making these decisions. They don't have a first-round draft choice till 2023. They need to protect Justin Fields, who definitely wasn't ready. We all can see that, but he does have some ability. And unfortunately, for a coach who needs to win now, that's just not the right quarterback to have. And it's just all going. I just felt for Matt Nagy. He probably had to look around like, do I have to have some sort of a seance? What do I have to do? What do I have to do? What do I have to offer up to the football gods to change all of this? But the signs of a poor team are mistakes, obviously, and then shooting yourself in the foot mistakes. There's mistakes in execution, and then there's just mistakes like personal foul penalties. Last night's game by the numbers for the Bears, 4 personal foul penalties, including one of his own, Matt Nagy. He almost got a second one, too, with an angry challenge flag. I texted Mooch. There's a famed Mariucci angry challenge flag.
He Gronk spiked that
I know
thing.
he did, but the whole thing is that he didn't need to do it because they had already changed the spot of the football. The sky judge had already chimed in, and that's a kind of difficult for a lot of us to understand sitting at home.
Communication is
right. And at one point, they didn't even make an announcement that they had reviewed it and changed. And I forget which one of the many moments where there's a ruling on the field, and then after 30 seconds, you hear the ref say the ruling on the field is now something completely different. And when that happens, by the way, folks, that means that New York City, which is watching the game, has gotten in the ears of all the officials on the field to say, hey, this is the way it is. Let's save everyone a challenge flag. Let's save the game a couple minutes. Let's just change the ruling right here. Nagy and the Bears, 4 personal foul penalties last night. 4 personal foul penalties, 3 turnovers on downs, 2 fumbles, and 1 touchdown with no time left. Just to make it a little prettier. And I guess put the scare in whoever had what. I texted you for that right away. For whoever had Bears plus 7.5.
7.5.
There's no more extra points, folks. We don't do that anymore.
Tease is still hit.
By the way, in case everyone's wondering why no extra points anymore on those situations, the Music City Miracle changed all that. If you remember that, when Stephon Diggs and the Minnesota Vikings shocked the Saints in the playoffs, they dragged the Saints out of the locker room to kick the extra point that meant nothing. The Minnesota Miracle back in the day. Remember that? What did I say, Miami Miracle? The Miami Miracle was the
you said Music City. You said
Music City. My bad. The Minnesota Miracle changed all that. They dragged the Saints out of the locker room to kick the extra point. I know you just lost the most heartbreaking
but
playoff
hey,
game and the most
we
heartbreaking
need 11
defeat.
guys to come stand here.
Literally, that happened.
so they can kick it.
Yeah.
Any 11.
I think Sean Payton, who was on the competition committee at the time, came out and said, yeah, we need to change that. At any rate, the Bears are absolutely one of the worst teams in football. And Matt Nagy's going to get it. And the question is only, is the general manager going to get it too? Do the McCaskies clean the entire house?
I mean, they should have already. It's
you could
11-15 in Chicago. Like, what are we waiting for?
Well, there's 3 games to go.
But you need to get a leg up on interviews.
Potentially you can,
and the
or
search.
I don't know. You may have already. I don't know the answer to that. We'll find out how this new early window of coaches being made available for interviewing does change anything. If you're one of those organizations, like I can wait, another week and a half. We'll get in. We'll get our in. We're the Chicago Bears. We have a lot to offer. I don't know. And it's certainly not like you're going to need to give the fans what they want because nobody showed up last night. If you saw, there was hardly anybody in the stands in Soldier Field last night. So the Vikings got, what they needed to do, which is a win. They also got fortunate that they're facing a team that's, staggering to the finish. Despite the Bears defense balling out, man. And that is something that you should give to Matt Nagy's credit, is that the team doesn't look like they are tapped out. That defense did not look to me like they were tapped out. I just think offensively they're tapped out in terms of talent to be there for Justin Fields up front. Up front. And then some of the play calling. And this is definitely, I notice it because of fantasy. David Montgomery. I mean, he gets 2 snaps. When he ran it 3 times in a row last night, I'm like, okay, that makes sense here.
Yep.
Right? And then out he comes. And then let's do a jet sweep. Let's do this. Let's do that. And, I guess you got to have some variety. But that's the guy you need to run your offense through, not Justin Fields. It's 32. He's a difference maker. And Fields maybe one day, he just isn't yet. And, man, it would have been nice for the Bears to finish up strong with a big win last night, but they just don't have the horses. And 17-9, once again, Vikings have a 1-score game. Just when you thought they would finally win by more than 1 score, the last second touchdown changes all of that. So if the Vikings run into a team that could put points on the board and they have a game like that against the defense, they might be one and done. If they're the 7th seed, which they are right now, if the Washington football team wins tonight, Washington football team's the 7th seed. If the Eagles win tonight, they're 7-7, but the Vikings stay in that 7th spot. So Minnesota fans are rooting hard for either Jalen Hurts or Gardner Minshew, or we'll find out shortly if the Washington football team is going to have Taylor Heineke or Kyle Allen available. According to Ron Rivera, they're both sitting there in Washington, D.C., hoping to get the proper test results. And I guess what, they'll take the Amtrak up?
Yes.
So it is, they'll take the fast train? I don't know.
It's not that far.
It's not. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.